Just what does it mean to come back here and be able to play or just as an opponent tonight?
Yeah, AZ was good to me, but I'm way happier where I'm at now. It was good to see people. It was fun to play in front of some fans, but for me,
The Indiana Fever's road trip recently came to an abrupt end as they lost to Phoenix, 95-60. Two more terrible injuries in Dana. Bonner's derogatory remarks during the press conference after the game, Sophie Cunningham, however, had the final say. This film explains exactly what went wrong in Phoenix. Sophie's heroic attempts to motivate the squad to win. And above all, her shocking podcast comments in which she finally disclosed the truth about how Dana Bonner actually gave up on the Fever. You won't believe what she said about saying goodbye and being professional.
And to have been one of, if not the most embarrassing loss of the season for the Indiana Fever so far. We lost to the Atlanta Dream earlier in the season, 77-58. We lost to the Valkyrie earlier in the season, 80-61. And tonight, against the Phoenix Mercury, we lose 95-.
Comment spicy Sophie if you agree with her. Come on. If the Fever was unable to reach water after falling from a boat during the first quarter, you knew something was amiss. The passes were being intercepted, shoots were not falling, and Phoenix was already retreating. Before the majority of spectators had consumed their popcorn, this was more than a sluggish beginning. Its whole offensive breakdown was taking place in real time. The grim tale that every Fever supporter wants they could forget is revealed by the figures. Indiana went a pitiful 7 of 30 from three-point range and shot a pitiful 34.3% from the field. Phoenix scored 42 points on a silver platter thanks to 22 turnovers. You're having
trouble. Does this team practice? What I saw tonight looked like what I saw a month ago. Looked what I saw 3 weeks ago. Absolutely no offensive game plan. I thought this motion offense is when it's nobody's night in and night out. Everybody's allowed to have a night. If Kelsey Mitchell doesn't play well, it needs miraculous efforts from the rest of the team to pick this up. Sophie Cunningham played great tonight. Kelsey Mitchell had a bad game. Bad game. Where's every...
Major problems when you're allowing the opposition to score more points off turnovers than you're scoring from outside the arc. Sydney Cousins' non-cont knee injury was the true gut hit, leaving everyone holding their take a breath. Arie McDonald then began to hobble around due to foot issues. And all of a sudden, the already thin rotation...
Steph, obviously, Sid had that injury, and Arie left, I think, in the fourth quarter.
Yes.
What's the status of...
It's Sid's left knee, Arie's right foot, and we'll get some more evaluation when we get home tomorrow. And
rotation of the Fever became more thinner. It was like getting hit while you're already down to watch two important players get wounded in a lopsided loss. Phoenix dominated this basketball contest in every way. They defeated Indiana 44-32 and gave the appearance of a Fever totally disoriented on both sides of the court. Indiana was still learning checker.
Sophie Cunningham making her return to Phoenix, and it seems as if nobody on our team other than Sophie Cunningham felt any type of emotional connection to this game. Tawana Bonner just got done doing your team absolutely dirty. You guys escape with a victory when they come to Indiana, and you wipe your hands of it like it's all over and finished with. No, it goes both ways. You don't think we want to beat her on her home court? You don't think we want to get a W for Sophie Cunningham, making her return to the team that she spent her whole entire career with up until this point?
And every possession seemed like the Mercury were playing chess. Phoenix's defensive push caused confusion from which the Fever never fully recovered. The only player from the Fever who actually showed up prepared to compete was Sophie Cunningham. She gave up 18 points on effective.
Sably, tough shot, wasn't square, and here comes Indiana. Cunningham, another three. Oh my goodness, Sophie.
Shooting despite observing her colleagues' inability to establish an offensive rhythm. Sophie was doing all in her power to prevent this game from getting any more embarrassing. But she couldn't defeat a whole team by herself. And wearing fever colors found the arena's atmosphere to be dismal. Annoyance was evident on faces in the audience as their squad started to lag farther and farther. Seeing the Mercury celebrate each made shot and defensive stop as though they were winning Game 7 of the finals. Added to the agony of this defeat, the Fever's unfortunate rimouts weren't the only result of a poor shooting night. This comprehensive system breakdown demonstrated just how vulnerable Indiana is when injuries start to mount. The post-game press conferences were where the real drama was beginning. Dana Bonner was unable to control herself after making her previous squad seem bad. Additionally, her post-game remarks made it clear why the Fever would be better off without her. She made sure that everyone in the crowd was aware of her 23-point basket, discussing how her homecoming felt emotionally charged, like she had just climbed Mount Everest, and how she had found her edge. This is what actually transpired throughout those 40 minutes of hoops. Bonner engaged in several altercations with after making baskets and being chippy with Sophie Cunningham anytime they shared the floor. Lexi Hall would stare her down. She was engaged in more than just basketball. She was putting on a performance meant to make her old teammates look best. Post-game interview. Coach Nate
Can you see that? DeWanna Bonner hit her first three-point shot in about 6 months and runs down the floor after losing her starting spot to Lexi Hull. Runs down the floor and calls Lexi Hull a bomb to her face. DeWanna Bonner is out here calling Lexi Hull a bomb.
Tibbetts was unable to stop complimenting Bonner's fire. Described how her competitive spirit had been rekindled by her veteran experience, especially for this game versus Indiana. You would believe that. Based on his description, Bonner had been putting months of effort into this one game. Phoenix handled this entire...
You know, it was... Woo, yeah, I don't know, emotions are kind of high. Honestly, it's just been a journey to get back to just being happy playing basketball again. Yeah, I'm just the joy. Trying to find that for a minute. Basketball was kind of like off the radar for me a little bit. I didn't know if I loved it anymore. Like, had a long conversation with Alyssa. So just to feel that again, feel that energy, feel this from that building was just amazing. And I feel like it was a game that I needed to, remind me like.
Entire game more like a personal matter than a game of professional basketball. Among all the trash talk and theatrical celebrations, Bonner was squarely in the center. There was extra staring for every shot that was made. With each defensive stop, more time was spent jawing with the Fever bench. Take a look at Bonner. Additionally, Cunningham has that harmless smile on his face. Additionally, no one is buying it. Whoa, what a bargain Bonner made. Walking straight into it, Sophie's aware that she doesn't wish to produce anymore. Not much waiting due. You believe that a rivalry is developing here? Now they're giving it to her. They previously gave Cunningham a standing ovation. Stark contrast between the two teams' responses to the final buzzer was evident. While Indiana concentrated on remaining united as a team, Phoenix was rejoicing and verbally attacking their rivals. The Fever players were chatting about overcoming hardship and checking in on their injured colleagues. Definitely. It's awful, isn't it? You know that you never want to witness an injury on any team? In the W8 seems like there have been a lot of injuries this year. Harsh ones, I suppose, and it's just another one, Our team's lifeblood remains. Sid. She will be alright. Our team will be alright, I guess. Additionally, it felt more like someone frantically attempting to make a point to people who had already moved on with their lives than it did like genuine basketball brilliance. This is simply another obstacle that we will need to overcome. While Sydney Colson's knee issue was causing the Fever to worry, she was adding extra mustard to every celebration, and comparing the two locker room interviews, the difference was glaring. While Bonner and the Mercury were essentially dancing to triumph over defeating an undermanned team without important players, the Fever spoke about unity and perseverance in the face of adversity. Despite her 23 points, Bonner's post-game demeanor made it clear why she was never a part of Indiana's team-first ethos. However, Sophie Cunningham was going to reveal some shocking facts that would completely change the picture. Did you notice that they were upset that our fan following was jeering at DB when she returned to perform for us? Well, unlike some of you, I don't think it's appropriate to jeer at former players unless they have left. Underscore on her podcast, Sophie Cunningham finally revealed the truth of Dana Bonner's actual fever death, which was worse than anyone had anticipated. Sophie began by admitting that despite being a Hall of Fame athlete, Bonner was truly unhappy while she was living in Indiana. However, she then revealed the shocking information that fundamentally altered our perception of Bonner's leaving. I like Deep because when we got together here in Indiana, Deb was one of my vets from Phoenix, so it was rather unexpected that she was signed to Indiana nevertheless. Therefore, we will accept her as if she were a Hall of Famer. She plays basketball really well, able to score from any position on the court. Sophie claims that when Bonner made the decision to quit the squad in the middle of the season, she never even texted her teammates. Take a moment to consider that. You train together, travel together, and develop bonds with your teammates for months, and then you simply vanish without a word. However, when she arrived in Indiana, she was genuinely unhappy. Additionally, I want people to be content. Dumb. Kind of neutral on this one because of this, which surprises a lot of people. She deserves her flower because she is nearing the conclusion of her career. She is worthy of happiness. However, I also believe that you should anticipate getting bit if you decide to leave. For example, was there a reason why it occurred? No, not in private either, yes. Well, that's difficult, indeed. All right? I did say what I meant to say, and that is, unless you leave on some. Yes, then Sophie made it apparent that this had nothing to do with strategic disagreements or basketball disputes. In her podcast, Sophie clarified that all of the unpleasantness and drama that followed Bonner's departure from Indianapolis could have been avoided with a simple farewell message. The squad received radio silence from someone they believed to be an experienced leader in place of professional civility. According to the podcast disclosure, she simply disappeared without displaying any regard for the connections she had ostensibly made, as if I'm still cheering her on, as if I want her to be content when her career ends. However, I also believe that sending a text message to your teammates and acting professionally are acceptable. Text someone and say something like, "Hey, I love you guys." Or you can just say, "I love you guys." Simply saying, "Hey, I'm sorry this didn't work out. I wish you luck." Do you understand what I mean? As if there were a way to deal with that. Since Sophie has been bearing the emotional burden of this team, while Bonner was off making excuses elsewhere, I believe her remarks regarding leadership and accountability struck a whole new chord. As Sophia discusses what professional etiquette in these circumstances should entail, you can almost hear the frustration in her voice. She wasn't acting petty or cruel. She was outlining the fundamentals of teammate respect. Dana Bonner probably had no notion that her filthy treatment of her teammates on her way out of Indiana would ever be discovered. But hold my beer, remarked Sophie Cunningham. I received a podcast. This platform is mine. I will express my opinions. I will not reveal the firm line. I will not defend narratives. Agendas won't be followed by me. I'll explain how everything transpired and how Dana Bonner vanished into thin air. This insight fundamentally changed the perception of Bonner's Phoenix performance, turning it from a redemption tale into what it was. She was too busy playing petty revenge games against her teammates to even bother sending a farewell text. The true character difference between someone who perseveres through hardship with her team and someone who retreats when things get tough was shown by Sophie's candor. As Dana Bonner celebrated her game of retaliation, the true story was how Sophie Cunningham, Lexi Hull, and the mainstays of the Fever demonstrated what true devotion looks like. Sophie showed the kind of spirit and tenacity that sets championship teams apart with her 18-point performance in a blowout loss. When the game grew out of control, she had the option to mail it in, but she chose to fight until the very last buzzer. Rimmon is out. Cunningham takes the board in his hands. She's coming. Sophie enters the trio. Is it wonderful to live in Indianapolis? She adores this group. On these, she's feeling it. Cunningham pauses. Drop onto the deck. Timson has a sweet meal within Sydney. Coulson and Arie McDonald's injuries might have provided the ideal justification for this squad to disintegrate and begin blaming one another, rather than pouting about the score. You witness them support one another during timeouts and tend to their injured colleagues. This distinguishes players who are concerned about one another from those who are solely focused on their own stats. Lexi Hull's refusal to back down from Bonner's stare-down demonstrated the strength of this youthful hot core in the face of hardship. When a seasoned player tried to threaten her in her own building, she didn't back down. Hull echoed Bonner's enthusiasm and demonstrated that. Despite their length of league experience, this team will not be bullied. Everything you need to know about organizational culture was made clear by the difference between Bonner's personal jubilation and the Fever's team's initial mindset and loss. While one side was preoccupied with seeking personal retribution, the other was more concerned with protecting one another during difficult times and with injured colleagues. That distinction is more significant than any one-game outcome. Phoenix is performing admirably on the boards. We discussed that they were up by 10-17. You examine all of your favorite statistics while Cunningham berries continue to remain warm, burying a third triple. This is going to be a difficult decision, and the three-pointer against Copper will be seen. After Sabi's difficult shot wasn't square, Indiana Cunningham arrived. 3 more, my gosh. Cunningham Sophie. Because these current players embody something Bonner never accomplished while she was in Indianapolis. The fan base has fully embraced them. When things become tough, these players don't look for the escape. Instead, they demonstrate a sincere dedication to the Fever's future. Rather than focusing solely on proving specific arguments, they are creating something enduring. This core group has preserved the identity and principles that make the Fever unique in the eyes of their fans, even without Caitlin Clark on the court. They play passionately. They stand by one another and proudly represent the city each and every evening. Although the Phoenix defeat was painful, it's also demonstrated that the Fever's core isn't made up of players who give up when things get hard. The impending homecoming of Caitlin Clark means that this hardship will soon serve as the catalyst for something much more significant. In addition to exposing the Fever's weaknesses, the Phoenix disaster also highlighted the personalities of its real leaders. This turmoil is preparing them for an unexpected 2025 championship run, especially because Caitlin Clark will soon return. Sophie Cunningham's candor regarding Bonner's unethical departure just demonstrated that sometimes a team's best outcome is removing the wrong players. Despite being put to the test by injuries, defeats, and controversy, the Fever's devoted core has remained united as their former teammate celebrates defeating an inferior squad when it matters most. That character difference will make a difference. Please leave a hot Sophie comment if you agree with Sophie. Turn on all notifications. Like and subscribe to ensure you don't miss anything.